I was just gonna say, a bunch of stuff. You know, it really sucks because like so many things came out at the same time. I don't understand when it all comes out in fall. It's like, oh my gosh, I only have so much time to spend on this stuff. But also too, like I know games get lost. It always blows my mind that they release all these games at the same time because like Rise of the Tomb Raider came out. That's what the new one is called, right? Rise of the Tomb Raider on Xbox One, and it came out the same day as Fallout. Well, yeah, it's lost now. Like it got lost in the shuffle, and I'm hearing sales aren't that good. It's just like, man. And for me personally, a few games I was looking forward to a lot came out at the same time. And I was just going to say those real quick. They released Yakuza 5, finally came out on the PS3. I've been waiting for a port of that to the US for so long. And
PS3?
they finally, on PS3.
Yeah.
Didn't even come to PS4.
Nope, it's a PS3 game.
Stupid.
It's taken that long.
Shit,
well,
I might get it.
It's an older game. Yeah. And it finally came out in the US. It's download only. There isn't even a copy of it anywhere. But man, I can't recommend it enough. It is so robust, and
you were disappointed with Yakuza 4, weren't you?
No,
I was.
No, you were?
I couldn't get into it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I got through one and a half
I was blown
characters.
away by Yakuza 4. Yakuza 4 told its story episodically where the game starts, here's the story. It was almost like, I mean, the game's not sci-fi, so I don't want to say Twilight Zone necessarily, but that same kind of story, like, where it's broken into, this is about this guy. And then it's almost like you beat that game. All right, now we're going to tell the story of this character. Okay, great. And now it was like, almost like you got 4 different games. And then at the end, they all come together. It was so cool. And it looks like 5 is kind of doing the same thing.
It's cool.
I haven't played a ton of it yet, but you're free to explore Japan. I was going into stores and literally you can pick up and flip through manga and read every page and put it down. There's a ton of different titles. You can. I've said this before about Yakuza series, but it feels like the next step of Shenmue, where it's not totally open world, but it's open. You can go through a small city, and you're in Japan and you're exploring it.
There's like open areas that are chained together.
Yeah, and the story is great. It's a great crime story. I'm really loving that. So that was one. Played that
real quick.
Yeah.
See, 4 was my first Yakuza game, and I think I just didn't connect that well with it. And it came at a time where there's a lot going on.
There was a lot coming out. Yeah.
But I'm gonna hold off on 5. They also announced that there's a more recent Yakuza game is finally going to come
for
to
PS4.
Zero, right?
Yeah, probably next year.
Yakuza 0 next year. I think I'm going to get that one.
Wait for that. Wait for that.
Because if you're saying this is episodic 2 where all 5 characters
where it's the story of a few characters.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks that way. Yakuza 0 is about how it all began.
And
wait for that.
I'm interested in that, and I'm also interested on a more recent.
Yeah.
I think a recent game engine is going to lend itself better to that open world.
Sure, yeah. So if you're with being kind of limited on what you could play, I would wait.
Okay.
But I was gonna say,
keep going.
So anyway, I also played a game that came out this week quietly. Was Devil's Third, the game created by Itagaki, the guy who made Ninja Gaiden, Dead or Alive, all those games. He has been working on his own game for I think 8 years. It was that long. There are trailers at the beginning that don't even resemble the game that it is now.
That's a passion project.
Yeah, and Nintendo swept it under the rug. It's gone from company to company as they all closed down. And Nintendo finally said, we'll publish it. We'll put it on the Wii U. They swept it under the rug completely where it came out this week, and it was at the bottom of like their newsletter. Oh, by the way, Devil's Third. Like out of nowhere.
Wow.
And what people found out is the copies shipped were basically to meet pre-orders. And someone from GameStop told Destructoid, our website, we had about 400 copies to sell throughout
so if you
throughout
didn't
the
get
country.
it, so it's gone.
So that game and they're saying it's published by Nintendo. It is published by them. That may be the rarest game ever published by Nintendo.
Wow.
Commercially. There's some games that might be rarer that maybe they didn't put out all the way. But
So
this game,
pick it up if you can find it.
And let me tell you, just from playing it, it's not a good game, but it is a fun game. It is like a bad Dolph Lundgren movie where the cutscenes are what is happening and things aren't matching up. You go into an animation to like bash a guy over your knee and the guy doesn't make it there, so you're just doing this to nothing. And it is
that's pretty bad.
The game is broken, the frame rate drops, but it's fun to play. It's a hybridized game where there's kind of Ninja Gaiden action mixed with you pull out a gun and it becomes a first-person shooter. It's fun to play, and I really recommend if you can find it, get it. Now, it is up on the eShop. You can download it, but in terms of finding a physical copy...
How much are those going for on eBay? Are they still, like, nothing?
It's still... No, it's I mean, normal right now.
But wait a year or two.
Yeah. I know a lot of people who are like, I'm going to wait till it's in the bargain bin. You ain't going to find it in the bargain bin. So check that out if you can, if you're in the mood for a cheesy-ass game. And then the last game was Xenoblade Chronicles X. Came out, and that was one of my most anticipated Wii U games, and I'm really disappointed. That game is not for me at all. It doesn't really correlate to the last one at all. So it's honestly, it's hard. I shouldn't even be comparing them, but you have to, because the last Xenoblade Chronicles is one of my favorite games in the past decade, and so it's hard. It's, you shouldn't compare them, but I have to. Honestly, it's so far of what I played. It's a lot of complication and not really a lot of fun. And I know that later on, I guess a lot of that goes away. But what really drove me to play the last one was the story. That was a big driving part of it. Within the first few hours of the last game, people that you love die, and things happen that motivate you to, man, shit, I gotta do this. It becomes a revenge story, and you want to explore the world. And the world is huge. Now, the world in this new one is huge. They nailed that. But man, I don't have the motivation to explore it because the story is so bogged down with technical bullshit that I just don't care. There's no one that I humanly care for, and so I'm not really motivated to play it. Not enjoying it right now. I'll play it more later, but it's at the bottom of my stack.
Does it still cut out? Because what the last one, Xenoblade Chronicles, did so well was cut out all the bullshit RPG, time wasting.
Sure.
Leveling up or grinding, that was kind of removed from that RPG. Is that...
Yeah, the combat is pretty much the same.
Oh, okay.
So that's good, but they bog you down with so much technical stuff that frankly it's not that fun to me. So I don't know.
Technical stuff.
Bummer.
Just in terms of explaining everything you have to do in these areas and the sci-fi world, it's all exposition rather than things you care about. I don't know. I just it's you know what? The last game was Star Wars, and this one's a little too far into Star Trek, where it's just all spaceships and not really anything interesting.
Okay.
So anyway, that's just my opinion. That's my take on it. But anyway.